Hey guys, it's Amari here. I am bringing you another speaker here from the AFPT event, the one and only Eric Helms.
Thank you for
Some of you
having me.
might have heard of him, some of you might not, and that is going to change now when you look up his stuff. And I wanted to talk to you guys about a topic, and I wanted to bring Eric on, how to lose a lot of weight fast. And this is something that I'm sure you wondered as well if you're looking into just generally getting yourself in better shape. I know a lot of videos out there will just claim fat diets, crash diets, juices, all kinds of nonsense like foil around your stomach, all these kind of things. And first I want to introduce Eric. Eric, thank you for coming here. Can you share with the viewers a little bit of who you are?
Yeah. I'm just basically a nerdy musclehead, you know? So I basically started lifting weights about 12 years ago. And that was for the purposes of getting as big as possible and as strong as possible. I started reading Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, and then I decided, I want to make this my career. I became a personal trainer at the local YMCA in 2005. Fast forward 10 years later, almost now, and I have my own consulting business with my four partners, Jeff Alberts, Alberto Nunez, Brad Limis, and Andrew Valdez, and we train drug-free strength and physique athletes. And along the way, I have been trying to educate the masses who are interested in that as far as evidence-based practice and longevity in the sport as well. And I'm doing my PhD in strength and conditioning. I have a master's in sports nutrition, and I have another master's in exercise science. I've got a lot of letters after my name. Basically, I read the crap out of this stuff.
And in terms of published journals, one of your is in top 5, right? In terms of research.
In that journal.
Yeah, in that specific journal.
So yeah, I've got a handful of publications, which is growing. Most of them are around the topics of natural bodybuilding and powerlifting.
And you're a natural bodybuilder powerlifter yourself, and with a lot of experience and coaching a lot of clients. So this question, I'm sure people asked you before, how to lose a lot of weight fast? And when we say fast, I mean, let's put things in the right context first. What does fast mean? Because some of you guys might think like, oh, I want to lose, 50 pounds in a month. For some of you, that might be fast. They watch The Biggest Loser.
Oh, yeah.
They watch this kind of stuff. And I know that is exciting, but let's really put it into the right perspective here.
So I think the first thing to understand about fast weight loss is that it is achievable. You can get it. And then you will find yourself asking that question again for the rest of your life. And there is one context where that's not true, and I'll get back to that. So first, I think if you are someone who's watching right now and you're saying, I want to lose as much weight as possible in a short-term period, I want to ask you whether you think everything will change at that point, what's going to go on for the rest of your life, unless you only care about how much you weigh in November, right?
Yeah.
Then that shouldn't be your goal. However, now we're going back to the caveat, is that there is a time and a place for losing faster, and I'll give you some numbers attached to that. And that is, if you are someone watching this and you are discouraged and you feel you have an insurmountable amount of weight loss that you have to accomplish, if you are obese and looking for a change in your life, if I were to tell you, hey man, just lose a pound a week, that might be a year or 2 years of restriction, which is mentally impossible for most people to do. And if you look at the statistics, that's currently what most dietitians and doctors try to teach, unless it's a medically, supervised fast. Yeah. They teach the slow is best. And I would say that when you're at the beginning stage of weight loss and you're an obese person, seeing faster weight loss, it builds self-efficacy. I know a lot of you are out there and you want to have success, but it's very difficult to believe in yourself because it's been so long that you've gotten here, and it's going to take you so long to get to the place you want to be. So there actually is a time and a place for fast weight loss. Physiologically, this makes sense because someone who has a lot of body fat, they can also liberate a lot of body fat.
Yeah, that's the point. Let's say someone has like 100 pounds to lose.
Yep, exactly.
What would be like a rate that you would recommend? Let's say in the first couple of months at least.
I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with losing in the range of, say, even as high as maybe 2.5%, 3% of your body weight per week, which is that's the absolute fastest. And I think that should be the start, no longer than like 8 weeks. And then you should take a diet break, spend some time at maintenance, and then you want to come back to a more reasonable rate of weight loss, probably in the realm of, say, 0.5 to 1.5% of body weight. After you have achieved weight loss to the point where you're no longer like obese or seriously overweight, then you want to start slowing it down even more. Because what's going to happen is when you have a lot of body mass and you really start to control your diet and you start tracking and you learn how to do all this, you'll find that you can actually eat a fair amount of calories and lose weight, because it takes energy to move all that mass, right? So if you're someone who weighs, 140 kilos or a little over 300 pounds, you're going to be able to eat 3,000 plus calories and lose weight.
Oh, yeah.
And eating, even with the commonly recommended intake for man or woman, 2,000 or 2,500, you'll probably be losing 2-4 pounds a week, unless you're just incredibly sedentary. So getting active, starting a weight training plan, and then trying to lose at a fast rate is not that hard, and you can still not have a crash diet to do that. However, it will very quickly become unsustainable. And the harder you diet, the more you will swing back and go not only back to where you were, but potentially even further back to where you were. And if you don't do it with resistance training, you will lose muscle in that process, and you will start at actually a higher body fat, even if you're the same weight when you get there again. So my advice to you is if you want to lose weight fast, you can do that. But I wouldn't do it for any more than, say, 1 to 2 months tops. Make sure that you're at least doing full body resistance training or training every body part at least twice per week. That could be full body twice, a 30-minute circuit if you're not really into resistance training. But just remember that if your body has no reason to keep the muscle on your body, it's going to lose plenty of muscle and plenty of fat simultaneously. So nothing wrong with it with a kickstart to motivate you, get you in there, to learn how to lift weights, to learn how to diet, take a relatively aggressive approach, but then you want to start backing it off. Because remember, this is going to take a long time, and it needs to be not something, don't just think about how do I get from point A to B the fastest. This needs to be how do I find a sustainable approach that is truly a lifestyle change, so that you don't have to ask me this question on camera again.
That was my next question, is like a lot of people think, okay, I have this 100 pounds to lose, it's going to be a straight line, it's going to be no diet breaks, no readjustments, nothing, and that's a problem there. Would you even want to lose all of that at once? I mean, is that even a successful strategy in the long run? I mean, we're talking about 2 years, and we're talking about spending 2 of your years of your life, on a diet, essentially.
I think there's a really cool study by Wing, and it's these group of researchers accurately assessed that the biggest problem is not weight loss per se on just a mathematical level, but rather what happens and why do people break their diets. So their goal was to force people to break their diets and see what happened. And this is really important. So they had 2 groups. One group just dieted straight through for a period of time, and the other group had to intentionally stop for 1 to 2 weeks and then start over. And the researchers were baffled because they found that both groups lost the same amount of weight, except one group took a couple weeks off diet. And here's the difference. Most people break a diet because they have broken their will. They have pushed themselves so hard they can no longer continue dieting. However, when a researcher tells you, hey, in 4 weeks, we're going to stop and we're going to eat at maintenance, they're like, gotcha, I can do that. So this is actually unlocking a huge success strategy that you can use, which is plan to stop dieting for periods. Remember, you're not going to regress. If you diet to the point where you're just mildly tired of dieting and then you stop, instead of literally dieting yourself into the ground and then rebounding, the pendulum is swinging, it's swinging, it's swinging, and if you let it get all the way up to here, it's going to smack you back all the way to the starting line.
That's the yo-yo effect that most of you probably read in headlines, maybe even experienced a couple of them. Just creates that cycle.
Correct.
The yo-yo cycle.
So you need, if you're going to take an aggressive approach, it needs to be planned, structured, and you need to have a break afterwards, and then you need to take a moderate approach. This is something that is also true for the lean people watching. If, for example, I work with many bodybuilders, and if anything, since I started, the contest prep length has increased. And the reason the contest prep length has increased is because I institute more diet breaks, more days within the week that are at maintenance calories, and all of these are in place to maintain as much muscle as possible, maintain as much energy expenditure, and maintain as much motivation as possible. And then the end product of what they look like on stage is night and day. In my opinion, someone who loses the same amount of weight in 16 weeks versus 32 weeks and is implementing a higher calorie approach, less cardio, can train harder, and has more macronutrients, carbs, fat, the whole 9 yards, and protein to get there, is going to look different.
And these are naturals, guys. This is not enhanced athletes. Eric works only with natural athletes, so these are all drug tested federations, really strict. So,
and to bring it back, we talked about Biggest Loser, and a lot of the biggest, there was actually a huge scandal that came out. The doctor involved with the Biggest Loser study and a few of the people who participated, they talked about how not only was drug use kind of a blind eye was turned, there was diuretic use, they encouraged crash dieting. They did all the things to produce that massive amount of weight loss that you see, but what you don't see is the people who don't make it to that final round. You don't see the people who don't sustain the weight loss when they come back. You don't see all of the costs of that. And The Biggest Loser is entertainment. It is not a model.
Exactly, yeah. And I saw Kevin Hall's recent presentation, and he was mentioning that some people regain 200 pounds.
Yes.
You can regain 200 pounds. It's not like once you got it, and I saw some energy expenditures of like 9,000 calories a day. They had a meeting like 1,300 calories, and God knows you mentioned what other effects were included. So when you mentioned like in the beginning going aggressive, it might be a nice kickstart for motivation, as well as, let's say you have a college reunion in like a month, like let's say 2 months or a month, and you want to, just feel, you're not going to make that much of a difference in that short period of time, but you could feel a little bit better, and obviously it will affect your clothes. Maybe the scale won't even recognize that, but as soon as you start training, obviously body composition changes. And in this scenario, it's possible also to build muscle while you're losing fat, right? So people
definitely
are concerned. That was one of the concerns. Would you say that that if someone is really overweight, that they don't even need that many calories focusing on building muscle? They already have the energy.
You have plenty of excess calories to play with. That's a really good way of thinking of it, is that the stores you can tap into is not just what you eat, but also on your body. And it's more difficult to maintain lean body mass. That's why I'm doing all these things during contest prep, the leaner you are. So you have actually an advantage in weight loss when you're heavy, believe it or not. There's a disadvantage in that you have a long journey ahead of you, but you have an advantage in that if you take a weight training program seriously, and you approach it with a sense of progressive overload, and you take a systematic approach to it, or even just a basic approach to it, you will see a very different body underneath when that fat comes off than you would have if you had just cardioed and crash dieted yourself to get there. Also, it's been shown pretty consistently that the people who rebound less are those who stick with an exercise plan. Cardio and resistance training combined, and exercise, all of these things are additive. And I would say even more so important than you've got to do resistance training is this is about sustainability. This is a lifestyle change. I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a powerlifter, but when I was a personal trainer, I didn't force everyone to deadlift, squat, and bench. That's what I love to do, but I encouraged every person I worked with to try to find something they loved. Join a local, tennis club. Go
dance.
swimming, dance. It really doesn't matter, so long as you make activity and fitness a regular part of your lifestyle, and then you find a dietary approach which is sustainable, and then you're able to take breaks. I think that's probably the most important thing I can tell you, is to take breaks just simply before your body or your mind forces you to. And you think about it, like we all drive cars, right? We know we're supposed to get our oil changed. You get your oil changed every certain amount of kilometers. Period. This is what you do. You have a little thing, or your mechanic calls you. You don't drive your car until it breaks down and then go, well, I guess I got to get my oil changed. Which is essentially what people do. And then they wonder why they fail and lose the same 30 pounds 6 times.
Yeah, they never manage. Exactly. That's one of the biggest things. Not thinking long term strategically.
Yep.
Let's employ these strategies. And what Eric is talking about is what is called non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Get active. Use a treadmill desk. It's a really good example how you can turn in, even from a software engineer or someone who's really not in that position to exercise a lot. Let's say you're really busy, although there's not an excuse for not doing 30 minutes of exercise twice a week.
Yep.
Should be a minimum effective dose of resistance training,
even a stand-up desk. Just getting 2-3 phone books. If you can find a phone book anywhere, and it's 2016, and put your laptop on it, you literally burn twice as many calories standing as sitting.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And general diet setup, you would say that the deficit, again, I mean, we hear this, exercise doesn't work, but still general setup the deficit should come from the diet. There's some restriction. I mean, the calories have to go down in some way.
Correct.
And what would you recommend, let's say for beginners, would you recommend a tool like MyFitnessPal or something like that? They could
It's a good way to start.
Become more aware.
The reality is most people, when I say most, I mean like not bodybuilders and powerlifters and folks like you and I, telling them to always track and weigh and measure everything is a insurmountable and unreasonable goal for the long run. However, if you can commit to even a 2-week period of getting a MyFitnessPal account, learning some basics about what protein, carbohydrates, fat, and calories are, or even just calories, and you just track your habitual diet. That's the first thing you do. Just track what you're already doing. And what you'll notice is that just by tracking, you're going to start changing your behavior. Because a lot of one of the many features of what causes obesity is unconscious eating and social eating, and simply creating self-awareness of your food intake tends to change your behavior. But if you can just track and just start getting used to looking at food labels and understanding their calorie and or macronutrient counts, and you can start to look at food not just as, I like this food, or maybe if you are starting in fitness, this is a good food or this is a bad food. Rather, you can start looking at them as their constituent energy, portions, and contents. Then you can get a gauge of portion control, and you can just start to make better decisions. It gives you tools. From that point, once you've spent a couple weeks of tracking your own diet, then you can look and go, okay, so where is it that I'm overeating most of the time? And what can I do? What kind of modifications can I make that are the easiest to adhere to? Don't go on the grapefruit diet or the lemon water diet and remove everything. Look at, okay, so, oh wow, I drink a regular soda. If I replaced it with diet soda, which is not unhealthy, just a side comment.
So someone will comment, oh, artificial sweeteners are making me fat.
So if you're able just to simply do some exchanges that don't change a whole lot, but do change a whole lot in the long run, you can drop a couple hundred calories here and there. Simply getting regular meal times, getting a regular amount of sleep. You can do a lot of habit-based things that makes it easier to adhere to something that you only had to minorly change. So you do have to create a deficit, certainly. And while people will go, exercise doesn't work, you just compensate for it. You compensate for it if you don't know your intake. Exactly. But if you become aware of when you add more calories to your diet, you see the compensation coming, and you go, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have an extra plate of food. I'm exercising, I'm more hungry. Well, maybe I can eat just a little bit more instead of completely compensating for the deficit
exactly,
by the diet.
That deficit gets wiped out.
By the cardio, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That deficit gets wiped out often. People are, oh, I'm just more hungry. And in reality, it's actually not even the case. If you're doing high-intensity interval training, there's some evidence pointing to a blunted appetite.
At least acutely, yeah.
Yeah, at least a short-term effect. And in general, guys, I mean, it's a big journey. If you're in that position where you have to lose 50 or 100 pounds, don't look at what's happening 2 years from now. Make a plan, but micro-focus on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Make good choices on a daily basis. Build your habits. Look at what lean people do.
Yeah.
That's how good, always when I ask me, what do your lean friends do?
Yep.
How many portions do they have? How many times they come back at a buffet? We have an awesome buffet here at
yes, we do.
at PT, right? But you can see people who are leaner, they just often leave half a plate. They eat not until they're full, but they eat until they're not hungry anymore. There's a small difference there, and all these things will help. And Eric, I want to thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm going to link to a lot of Eric's stuff in the description below. I'll link to his studies often when it comes to, especially the study we've done on natural bodybuilding, the evidence-based summary of pretty much everything you need to know, kind of.
For now. It was published a couple years ago. We may have to update that, but I think it's pretty still on point.
Yeah, it's still on point. A lot of great research. I mean, this is one of my mentors. I mean, it doesn't have to be your mentor, but if you want to get great results, here's a guy who will get you great results if you follow him. And plenty of, as I said, research studies. Even if you're not into that, there's going to be some resources in the description below that are made more for, let's say, more understandable your books that you can just start applying right now.
Yep.
And you don't have to be a scientist, at least not doing research, but having some of that mindset like you have, put a lab coat on, try different things.
Yeah. See
what works for you. That's kind of the end game here. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.
Awesome.
Peace.
Cool. Good?
Yeah.
Awesome, man.